This is the Fantasy Roadshow.
What's up, all you roadies? We're back again. This is the Roadshow, and we are your hosts, per usual. My name is Ryan. This is Mike Kulz. You can find me on Twitter at fantasy_trucker. You can find him on Twitter at Kulz_sports. Mike, this is the dog days of summer, and we are in two-a-days, my man. This is in. Let's go. How hyped are you, dude?
2 days. I love it. I thought you were about to start rapping some Eminem.
He thought I was about to start spitting and getting it. Yeah, no, I'm not doing that on the pod. Maybe one day, maybe Pistol Pete might make a performance, but
hey,
we are back. Check us out on
again.
YouTube. I didn't mention it before, but you can check us out on YouTube at youtube.com/sportsethos. Make sure you check us out, like, subscribe, and click the bell.
Yeah. We are live.
Oh yeah, ready to get it.
Yeah, we're doing wide receiver rankings today.
Top 36 wide receiver rankings. These are all the wide receivers we're going to be talking about on the podcast. We will have all of our rankings posted at sportsethos.com and possibly other places. We're working on other options as well. Ideally
we'll be able to have some sort of we're looking at like Linktree or somewhere we can post our like live Google Docs so you can see us making changes throughout. That's kind of the game plan. We're figuring out how to do all that, learning as we go. So let's
work in progress. I did want to little preface something. I am not in the greatest spot for internet access right now, so I've been having connection issues. If I get cut out, I just want to apologize ahead of time. This is the Road Show. We're on the road today. I'm back in Bloomington, Illinois, on my Missouri route, and I'll be back in Chicago. Mike, we'll have great internet tomorrow. I'm pretty excited for that.
Chicago.
But yeah, I mean, without further ado, did you have anything else you want to talk about? How was your birthday? Do you want to what'd you do?
I don't know. I just think it's time to buckle up.
Oh, okay. I don't hate it, man. Let's get right down to business, right? We're going to be talking wide receivers. This is going to be a long episode, so we should just dive right in, right?
Let's get into it.
How about tier one? Let's start with top tier, the number two best receivers. Kind of a coin flip right now. Actually, coin flip between the two of us. I have Jamar Chase at 1. I'm sorry, you have Jamar Chase at 1. I have Justin Jefferson at 1. Sorry for the flub right there, but I mean, you can't go wrong with grabbing these guys at the 1 or 2 spot. And what is your case? Why do you have Jamar Chase over Justin Jefferson in redraft?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if I had to draft today, I would probably maybe take Jefferson just because I want to know more about Burrow, that he's going to be starting, that he's going to be full go week 1. But honestly, I just think like from a talent level, I think Jamar Chase is a better receiver. I've always felt that way back to the LSU days. And then I love that he's with Burrow. I mean, I think he separates himself from Jefferson in touchdowns, whereas Jefferson gets 1 million targets. I don't know. I just feel like that's not, I don't know. Like, I want to say it's not sustainable that he can continue to get 200 balls thrown his way and just like get away with it. But I don't know. I just think I think the Bengals are going to have a great year. I think that offense is just, learning. It's the same offense, and they're just getting better and better. The Chase Burrow connection's just going to always get better and better. My reasoning is more so because I think the Vikings are going to have a bad year. I think that's really it. I think that the Vikings are going to have a bad year, so I'm more comfortable taking who I think's a better talent on a better team.
Okay, that's fair enough. I think even if the Vikings do have a bad year, Justin Jefferson still could easily have a very similar season than he had last year. I mean, he had 50 more targets than Jamar Chase, but also played 4 more games than him. Jamar only played 13. But, I mean, the way I look at it, there's a lot of really good receivers in Cincinnati. They got T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. So just between Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, I don't think Justin Jefferson has a T. Higgins caliber wide receiver 2 there. That's why he would command more of a target share, in my opinion. So that's why I'm taking Justin Jefferson number 1 overall. He went from 1,400 to 1,600 to 1,800. I think he is the best chance to get 2,000 yards this year. So I want to take him number 1 overall, and I think I'm going to do that with every 101 that I have in drafts this year.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Can't say much poor things about either guy. They're 2 LSU Tigers, so they're winners. I just that's my reasoning. I like Chase. I think he's a better receiver, and I love that him and Burrow are just lighting the league on fire. I think the Bengals are going to be better than the Vikings, and hopefully, if we get a full healthy year out of Chase, that you see crazy numbers.
Yeah.
So that's all. I mean, I also think that because there is more options on the Bengals, it allows Chase to have a little bit more space. I don't know. You can't say much. You can't go wrong either way. That's the 1-2.
Yeah.
So
anybody that takes Jamar over Justin, I'm not batting an eye. It's totally understandable. So it's, like I said, a coin flip for me. So what about
regardless of format, I'm probably going those 2 in the first 2 picks. That's typically you don't see wide receivers go. It's been, CMC the last handful of years, but or top RB, but I would be so comfortable going those 2. You're not really going to swing and miss. So another guy, CeeDee Lamb, I have him as my wide receiver 3. I think that he is just with a healthy Dak this year. I think Dak throws for a ton of yards, throws the ball a lot. I do like Brandon Cooks, but he's not going to take away from like huge plays that Lamb has. So I like CeeDee Lamb to be involved early and often in that offense. That's why I'm at wide receiver 3. I think I don't know. I have him a bit further, a bit higher on consensus than kind of the rest of the industry, but I'm ready for a big year for CD.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he was great last year. He played all 17 games. He, 17.7 fantasy points per game, over 150 targets, over 100 receptions.
3 different quarterbacks.
Yeah. He was the number 5 wide receiver last year. So it makes total sense. I want to talk in terms of a tier here with this second tier. I'm just curious, before we get into the rest of them, where do you see the second tier ending between CeeDee Lamb and who on your ranking? Cooper Kupp. Yes, that was exactly. Yeah. So from 2 to 7, or for 3 to 7.
Yeah, I'll put CeeDee Lamb, Garrett Wilson, Stephon Diggs, Tyreek Hill, and Cooper Kupp kind of all in its same tier. I know like industry standard right now has been Jamar and Justin, and then Tyreek and Cooper Kupp has kind of been the top 4 all year. But I like CeeDee Lamb. I like Garrett Wilson. I think Diggs. I have the Bills winning the Super Bowl. I have Josh Allen QB1, and Diggs is going to be. It's hard not to put him as my wide receiver 3, and we may even end up to start this season that way. I don't know for sure, but it would be very easy for me to stick Diggs above Garrett Wilson and CeeDee Lamb. Rodgers loves Garrett Wilson. He is a absolute freak show, avatar-like wide receiver. That's why I have him as my wide receiver 4. That being said, how highly I speak of the Bills and what they're going to do this year, it's hard not to back that up with putting Diggs there at wide receiver 3. So,
Yeah, and I think you kind of just made my case for me as why I have Diggs over CeeDee Lamb and Garrett Wilson, so I don't really need to add much there. But from 3 to 7, I have Tyreek Hill actually at 3, Cooper Kupp at 4, Diggs at 5, CeeDee Lamb at 6, and Garrett Wilson at 7. But yeah, basically those same types of things. I have Tyreek Hill at the top there just because I think he's, got 1,700 yards last year when Tua didn't even have a fully healthy season. So I think 2,000 yards is not out of the range of possibilities for Tyreek. And Cooper Kupp, I mean, we saw him break the NFL 2 years ago and have like 1,900 yards. So I think those two, if I had to separate the tiers, I would have them in a tier of their own. But I agree that this whole group should kind of be grouped together in a tier because they all have insane upside. Every single one of these wide receivers could end up as a wide receiver 1 this year.
Yeah, 100%. And like, here's my thing with Tyreek and Cooper Kupp. So the reason I have those other 3 ahead of them is Tyreek Hill should have another, he's a video game player out there. He should have another huge outstanding year, which I think he will. But I have Jalen Waddle taking a huge step again. And you were talking about, that's why you have Jefferson over Chase. Well, that's kind of why I have the other 3 over Hill, is I think that Jalen Waddle is going to start to close the gap on wide receiver 1 on that team kind of numbers. I don't think, he'll get there, but he's going to be pretty damn close. And then Cooper Kupp, I just need to see a healthy Stafford before I put him back with those numbers. His health doesn't worry me as much, but like, in order for him to go, I think Stafford needs to be great. So that's the only reason. I mean, Dak, I like Dak. I think he's going to throw for another, puts up like 5,000 yards when he's healthy, playing a full season. And then Rodgers, I think he's going to just have a bounce back great year with the Jets. So that's my reasoning. And then obviously Josh Allen with Diggs. So that's why I have those 3 of Tyreek and Kupp. I don't really know what else I can say there. They're great receivers, and they can be wide receiver 1, like you said. But I'm just more comfortable taking the other 3, knowing that those teams are going to be good, those offenses are going to be good, and there's not much, I guess, competition in the wide receiver room. Whereas Waddle's awesome. I love Jalen Waddle.
Yeah. I don't know about you, but to me, these top 7 receivers that we were just talking about right now, they all should be first round picks. Like, to me, I would take all of them in the first round. So.
100%. I totally agree.
All right. Well, how about this next tier? I'm going to go ahead and make a claim, and you tell me if I'm incorrect here. But I'm going to say this next tier is Devontae Adams, A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Jalen Waddle.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay, so this is our third tier. Yeah, and that's how I have them ranked: Devontae Adams, AJ Brown, Amon-Ra, and Waddle. How do you have them ranked?
Adams, Amon-Ra, AJ, Waddle, and then like I could probably put Amare and Devontae in that tier as well.
Okay.
Because I think I have both of them ahead of the next tier, which would be like, in my mind, Olave, Ayuk, Judy, Higgins. So I think I would probably put them in that tier. I mean, Devontae Adams has some question marks, just not being happy, and Garoppolo coming in. Yeah. AJ Brown, I mean, I literally think AJ Brown and Devonta Smith are like, I don't separate the 2 of them too much, to be honest. Okay. I think Devonta Smith is awesome. I think he showed that last year. So I don't know. I don't separate those 2 too much. And then we've already talked about Waddle. Amari Cooper, like, could potentially have the most upside as any of those guys we just named. I think Amon-Ra's upside's probably more. Yeah. And Devontae Adams has been who we've seen him be for so long, but
just a perennial top 5 wide receiver.
Yeah, but I think I think that ceiling is lowered this year with just the situation going on. I don't like what's going on with Raiders. I'm worried about Josh Jacobs. That whole thing could crash pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of how I feel in terms of the tier there. But
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, our only difference is really AJ Brown and Amon Ra. So, I mean, I love AJ Brown and what he was able to do in the red zone with a limited receptions last year. I mean, he had 145 targets, 88 receptions, so under 90, and he had 11 touchdowns. And he was the wide receiver 6. Like, very, very efficient in the red zone. And it's clear that that's who Jalen Hurts looks for when he's throwing the ball down there. So that's kind of why I have him above Amon Ra. But again, these guys are so close to me that I have no reservation with how you have him ranked.
Yeah, we'll see what happens in this next week or two. I could probably see myself having Amon-Ra jumping Adams. I just need to see things get smoothed out, in Las Vegas with the Raiders, because I think Amon-Ra is outstanding and going to take another step forward this year. So
yeah,
yeah.
I mean,
anyways.
I just recently saw some clips of Jared Goff just throwing some darts to Amon-Ra and Jameson Williams at camp. So it was definitely interesting to see.
To me, it's like Amon-Ra is the kind of guy that he's going to work harder than
95% of the team. 95% of the wide receivers.
Anyone.
Yeah.
You're not going to find a wide receiver that's going to work harder than him. So anyone you put in that top tier that's looking to get their game better every single year right now, Amon-Ra is, in that. So I don't know. That's my thought.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Well, moving on there, our next tier, which would be about tier 4, as you mentioned before, the Chris Olave, T. Higgins, Brandon Ayuk, Jerry Jeudy, that little group right there is who we have there. And I have Chris Olave at the top. I think Chris Olave has a lot of opportunity this year with the Saints, and I think Derek Carr has something to prove. And I think he's going to be slinging it out there. And, Michael Thomas doesn't really seem to be his usual slant God self, but we'll see how that works out. But, yeah, I think Chris Olave is in line for a huge season and could easily creep up in this top 12.
Yeah, so my tier is like Olave. I have Olave, Ayuk, Jeudy, T. Higgins, Drake London, DJ Moore, Calvin Ridley. I might even go into Hopkins and Watson. I mean, this is a pretty big tier in my mind.
Yeah.
I have Brandon Ayuk as a wide receiver 15, which is what his ADP is 29. So, you even have him at 19. That's a massive jump. We're both extremely high on him. But it's hard for me to say that like any of these other guys are ahead of Ayuk. So I tend to get pretty bullish when I'm big on someone just because I love going and getting my guys. So like gun to my head, I'm taking Ayuk over Jeudy, which is tough to say, but like you need to see something with that Broncos offense in order to get comfortable taking one of them.
No, I agree.
T. Higgins is a very safe pick there, so I have him there at 18.
Yeah, very high floor, low ceiling type of play.
Drake London's another guy. Like, I'm very high on him and his talent, and I'm just hoping that the Falcons team all kind of takes a jump together.
Yeah.
DJ Moore, how I feel about the Bears and Justin Fields being the real deal and him finally getting a wide receiver 1 to throw to. And then it's like Calvin Ridley. He could jump all of those guys depending on – that's going to be one of the most improved offenses, and I think everyone is going to get, take a jump forward this year. I could easily see Calvin Ridley being – above everyone we just talked about. So to me, that's a big tier. There's a lot of movement there, but I have it as it stands: Olave, Ayuk, Jeudy, Higgins, London, Moore, and Ridley.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think I would definitely put DeAndre Hopkins in that mix. In this pocket here, I started out with Olave, but then Amari Cooper, T. Higgins, Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins, Ayuk, Judy, Moore. But then I also have someone else in there, Keenan Allen. I know you're not as high on Keenan Allen as I am this year, but if he stays healthy, man, he was setting a good pace last year. He missed 7 games due to a hamstring, but he was on pace for 112 receptions for 1,200 yards and 7 touchdowns. Like from weeks 11 through 18, he was the wide receiver 4 in fantasy points per game.
Yeah.
I just think if he stays healthy, Justin Herbert's going to be slinging it to him. He looks to him often. So
listen, I want to be high on those Chargers guys because I think they could probably have like the best offense this year, top 5 certainly.
Yeah.
Things go a little bit better for them than they did last year. Then I don't know. I'm like not taking Keenan Allen at his ADP. I'm not taking Mike Williams at his ADP.
Which, I mean, it feels weird because we both think that Justin Herbert's going to have a 5,000-yard season, right?
100%. Yeah.
Okay, well then, if he has a 5,000-yard season, I mean, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and Quentin Johnston, and even Austin Eckler for that matter, are all going to be heavily active in the passing game. So,
yeah, I don't know. I haven't been able to figure out where I'm statting out those Chargers receivers. I just really can't. I think Herbert's going to have a top 5 season. I have him as my 5th, my QB 5, and I could easily put him above Burrow or Hurts. Like he could be a top 3 quarterback this year.
Yeah.
But I just don't know where those yards are going to yet. I'm not comfortable taking Keenan Allen again over a lot of those guys. And maybe I'll sit back and like think about actually stat out that team. But, I think maybe it's Quentin Johnston that has 3,000 yards and Gerald Everett that has 1,000 and Josh Palmer that has 1,000.
Oh,
I just don't know. I haven't done it yet.
Yeah, I know what you mean, though. It's fun to speculate there. So that kind of rounds out our top 20, 22-ish. Let's go for a little further into our wide receiver 3s that we consider starting here. I have DJ Moore at 21, Terry McLaurin at 22, DK Metcalf at 23, which I don't feel great about. I don't know where to put him in my rankings. And he's being drafted as the 14th wide receiver. And I am not taking him there, and I think he might be on my do not draft list. So,
yeah, I think Debo's on mine as well. Like, this is where it kind of gets ugly because DK, even Terry McLaurin, Debo Samuel, like Chris Godwin, Hollywood Brown, Mike Evans, Michael Pittman, like these are all guys who are probably on my do not draft list, or I'm just hoping that someone takes them earlier and then my guys
you're not
fall
forced
to me
with
more.
that. Yeah, you're not forced with that value option where you're like, shit, do I take them because of the value?
I just don't think I will. DK's ADP is 14 and I'm at 23 right now with him. So like, do I think that for me, these rankings are tough, right? Like, you like to say that I go against the grain a lot because like he's essentially do not draft for me, DK. So I'm going to put him far enough on my rankings where it's like reflects that. I will just have the option to draft DJ Moore in front of him, or like, let's see, Brandon Ayuk. Brandon Ayuk is someone that I have as, wide receiver 15. He's 29 ADP, where DK's 14. So 10 out of 10 times I'm drafting Ayuk before Metcalf. So, someone's going to draft Metcalf before Ayuk. Before that decision, I have to make that decision. So I'm totally cool with your Metcalf, Debo, those kind of guys getting gobbled up. And then it's like, all right, well, my wide receiver 15 is now sitting there at, wide receiver 25 value. I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain, but like if anyone tries to make their own rankings, you're going to sound crazy bumping DK down that far, but like that's where I would draft him. So fuck off.
Exactly. You couldn't have said that better. I couldn't have said that any better. So, well put. But after DK, I have Debo at 24 and Drake London at 25 and Christian Kirk at 26. Now, when you were just going through that, it made me realize, like, even though I have Drake London and Christian Kirk below DK and Debo, like, I'd probably I definitely would take Drake London over them. So I'm going to be moving Drake London up in my rankings ahead of DK and Debo. But
yeah, so that's why, like, that's exactly what I'm saying, where it's like, you say I go against the grain, but for me, it's like everyone's going to be fucking wrong anyways. So why not just be aggressive and realistic when setting my rankings? Like, yeah, when I see DK at wide receiver 14 and I'm bumping him all the way down to 23, like there's a little voice in the back of my head that's like, the rankings say, but you have to just forget about that as much as you possibly can. Like, I think Geno Smith is fucking dog shit. And I think there's a chance that, like, he's not the quarterback for the team next year because of how bad he is. So in order for that to happen, the Seahawks have to play worse than they're projected to play. And in order to do that, sorry, DK, like, you have to, like, your rankings have to reflect that. So it's just, I don't know. You can talk and like sit there and toy with this all day, but at the end of the day, like, I'm taking Christian Watson before DK Metcalf. I think that the Packers are going to win the NFC North, and Jordan Love's going to be a lot better than everyone thinks they are.
Yeah.
That's my reflectings reflect what my opinion is, But anyways, that was kind of a tangent, but I think it's like noteworthy, right?
No,
because
absolutely.
like because like the other day I put up a poll that was Antonio Gibson or David Montgomery, and then, like, of course everyone's like, oh, David Montgomery, blah 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 blah. But I don't think it's that crazy to say that Brian Robinson loses the majority of his job. Gibson becomes the primary back and has an outstanding, like, you know what I mean? You just gotta be bold, and whatever your thoughts are, have your rankings reflect that. Otherwise, what's the difference between you and the fucking computer spitting this shit out?
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, I agree with you there. I think it's definitely possible that Antonio emerges out of that backfield. So
yeah, but that was just an example. You know what I'm trying to say? Like,
yes, of course. Yeah.
But so let's get back on track. Hopkins is my wide receiver 21. I mean, situation where he's athletically as good as anyone. I just don't know what the Titans offense is going to look like. I don't know. They should be pretty good, right? It's like one of those things where they have a veteran wide receiver in Hopkins. They have Henry, who's probably only got a few years left. Tannehill, I mean, he's getting old, and like, they've been trying to find someone to replace him, but they could be a very underwhelming team, or they could win the division, like, so I don't know. I'm not like ready to say that they're going to beat the Jaguars for the division. So I have Hopkins at wide receiver 21, but do I think he's wide receiver 1 at 21 in terms of talent? No, I think he's probably still fringe top 10.
Yeah, he's a solid wide receiver 2 on any team. Like, if he's your second wide receiver on your team, you got to feel pretty good about that. I mean, the guy just commands a target share everywhere he goes, no matter who's throwing him the ball. I mean, last year in 9 games, averaged over 10 targets and almost 80 yards. And I mean, reports coming out of camp right now that he's making highlight catches all over the field. At even over 30 years old, like, this guy's still doing it. So I believe in Hopkins. That's why I have him at 17 inside my top 20. I would be very happy with him as my wide receiver 2.
Yeah. He's a wide receiver. He's someone you can draft as wide receiver 2 that has a ceiling of wide receiver 1, like he's as good as anyone. But talked about Christian Watson, DK. I mean, Keenan again. I just need to figure out what I'm looking at with the Chargers offense, because I have them ranked against how I feel about them. So I just gave that huge tangent on have your rankings reflect your, your projections for teams and your philosophy, like what you really think teams are going to do this year.
Yeah.
I haven't figured out who's going to catch all those yards. So Terry McLaurin, tell me about him. He's someone that's worth talking about. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like I'm too low on Terry McLaurin, and I have him at 22. Like I'm a few spots higher than you. But like, I mean, if you really look at it, I mean, he was the wide receiver 14 last year. He caught a career high of 1,191 yards with only 28% of his targets deemed catchable. Like he had terrible quarterback play last year, and like he still posted a career high in yards. Like, I mean, over 15 yards per completion on 120 targets, like over 13 fantasy points per game. Like, he's a baller, I don't know. Week 18, if you look at his small sample size with Sam Howell, who should be the quarterback. I love it. I'm so glad you did that. Week 18, a small sample size with Howell, who should be the quarterback. He saw a 33% target share. So Howell looked to him early and often. I think overlooking McLaurin is a mistake this year, and I feel like I should have him higher.
Yeah, I'm for sure going to overlook him and not think twice about it. He's not one of my guys. He never really has been. And sometimes that happens and you just have to accept it. And that's just the kind of fantasy player I am. Like, if I'm not on someone, there's other guys I like in that area. Well, sorry, Terry McLaurin, you're a great football player, but I think the Commanders are going to be maybe one of the worst teams in the league this year. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I like Dotson. I like Gibson on that team for fantasy reasons, but McLaurin's one of the guys to me that I'm staying away. And sometimes I'm wrong. A lot of the times I'm wrong, just like everyone else. But like Eckler is a perfect example. I've never been on Eckler. And he's been one of the better fantasy players in the past, several years, but I missed
scored more touchdowns than any other player in the past 2 years.
Yeah, like I missed the boat on him, and it sucks. But
you win some, you lose some.
I've won fantasy leagues in the last 2 years, so
yeah,
But anyway, so I wanted to keep talking about keep talking down these rankings.
Yeah, of course.
A guy that I'm huge on, wide receiver 27. He's being drafted at 37, George Pickens. I'll continue to talk up Pickens. I think he's athletically one of the better. One thing that I probably do in fantasy football that's unlike a lot of people is I go a lot about the eye test. I go a lot from athleticism and how good of a wide receiver they are. And I understand the opportunity has to be there in order for them to realize that potential. But sometimes they're just a beast. Like Pickens is going to be out there making huge plays. And yeah, the Steelers, you can say what they want about their passing offense last year, and it's the same offensive coordinator, but Pickens and Pickett, they've had a chemistry. We heard about that last year in camp. Chemistries don't just unless you're Golden Tate and Russell Wilson and you fuck his wife, chemistries don't just go away.
What an example.
Those two Those two are
Oh my God.
came in the league together. They are developing a chemistry, and it's going to continue to get stronger. And you're going to see it again this year. They're going to take a massive step forward. Pickens wants to be in the Pro Bowl. Pickens, one of the most dog in your face, just like hardworking talent to back it up kind of receivers. And that's why he's making these, Odell Beckham-esque type catches in camp. And all you're hearing is rave reviews because he's got that type of talent. So again, I'm taking him before Chris Godwin, who I think is going to be on probably the worst team of this entire year, or Hollywood Brown, who I think is on one of the worst teams this year. Say what you want about what's happened the last few seasons and, where Pickens, what their offense looked like last year, whatever. I'm taking the guy that's now in year 2 with his quarterback who has undeniable chemistry and arguably a top 10 athlete in this wide receiver rankings. So I'm going to be 10 spots above ADP on him. And whether it works out or not, I'm going to feel very good making that pick over someone who has Baker Mayfield or Kyle Trask throwing to him and a 1,000-yard wide receiver for the past 10 years standing across from him.
Yeah, I think it just comes down to one simple fact that George Pickens has more upside than Evans and Godwin. In fantasy football, a lot of times you got to shoot for the stars. You got to swing for the fences, so to speak. You want players with upside, and that's what George Pickens has, man. I mean, I've heard beat reporters come out saying that it's more shocking when George Pickens doesn't have a spectacular catch at practice. Like he's been doing this every day at camp. Like this is just what he does, and it's going to translate into the NFL. But as we were saying that, I have him behind Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, and I probably going to be moving him up because you're making me realize that he really does have more upside than those two. And but the Steelers really have to make some strides this year with their offense and really improve. So I mean, he played all 17 games last year and barely caught 50 passes. So
Also, don't be such an easy sell. Like, how I have been selling you on Pickens and not necessarily the Steelers offense, but more so specifically Pickens. But also, like, you have said a lot about the Steelers offense, which, like, you can defend that. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and be like, there's still a very good chance they could be last in their division. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, George Pickens had less than 10 points per game last year. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. What he had 800 yards, didn't he? Like as a
801 with 4 touchdowns.
Very quietly had a good season. I don't think he played all 17 games. Like
he did. Yeah, he did. He played all 17.
He did. Whatever it was, he wasn't targeted early on in the season. Whatever. You had Mitchell Trubisky throwing him the ball. Pickett didn't start till later in the season. That's what I'm trying to like. Okay. You're gonna have Pickett, who's your guy, who I've talked about this chemistry and everything. You're gonna have 17 games with him this year. I don't know. Regardless, you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, I get it. I get what you're saying.
But Michael Pittman, I mean, like, awesome talent.
Is he another one on your do not draft list? I think he's on mine.
Yeah, I mean, where is he on yours? He's wide receiver 30.8. I have him at
38.
I have him at 32. And I'm going to move him behind Mike Williams. That's someone that's like, I should not have Pittman at ADP because I'm not high on him. I just kind of threw him in that bucket of Godwin, Hollywood, Evans, Pittman, these guys that I'm not high on, but you can't really deny their talent or their production in the past. If I think the Chargers are going to be one of the best offenses in the league, then I have to put Mike Williams ahead of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if Mike
So
Williams stays healthy all year, he's going to have a better season.
Yeah, for sure. End of story. But I want to talk about Dotson. 38.8 is his ADP. We have him at 33. We both have him at wide receiver 33.
Yeah.
He's someone that I have ahead of ADP because I think that he is a very good talent. He's one of those guys that just knows how to find space when a play breaks down, and his quarterback can trust on him to be there and make a catch, which that alone is going to get you so many more yards. Like look at Tyreek Hill. He used to just get in space and make plays. I think
make something out of nothing. Yeah.
I think Dotson kind of has that intangible about him. That being said, like I think the Commanders are going to be really bad. I think your projection of Jacoby Brissett being the quarterback looks better than when you said it.
I said that pretty early on.
You said it right, like super early. I still think that's pretty hard to believe for me, but like again, I've been wrong a million times. I just think from like a team, what are you doing standpoint?
Yeah.
You have to ride the young guy and see what you have. But if they somehow just want to try to be competitive with Jacoby Brissett, then, I don't know. I'm not in the coaching room. So I don't know. There's still so much to play out. Like that's why we're going to post our rankings and have these for you to pop in and look at them at any time, is because these are going to be constantly changing. We're just Thursday. We're just coming up on our first preseason game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's a guy who, that whole area that we're talking about right now, that could look a lot different in these next couple of weeks. I'll say that.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with you. Rounding out my top 30 over here, like I said, I have Mike Evans, George Pickens, Mike Williams at 32, Jahan Dotson at 33. I have Jackson Smith and Jigba at 34, which is, I have him ranked higher than Tyler Lockett at 39, which you do as well. You have JSN at 35 and Lockett at 39. I mean, JSN just looked, he's just probably would you say he's the best wide receiver in that group? Aside, I don't know, with DK Metcalf, like.
Yeah, I always thought he was too, which is crazy to say.
The most talented receiver, probably.
Yeah, Metcalf is the most physically freakish, obviously.
Yeah.
Lockett has been nothing but overperforming and outstanding as a Seahawk. JSN's definitely a different animal in terms of just, he's so smooth. Lockett's great at like finding space and making big plays. And staying healthy, but JSN, like, he's just so smooth. He looks different out there. And I think he's it's so crazy to me that the Seahawks have this offense that they have, and I just still think they're going to be trash because of Geno.
Yeah, I don't get it, dude.
Put Jared Goff in that offense, and like that team's they're probably winning the division this year. But you have just a waste of a space quarterback who's going to completely underperform current projections and look like the guy who sat on the sidelines for the last 10 years.
I always love it when you talk shit about Geno Smith. I just find it hysterical. Mainly because like it's hard for me to believe that happens. Dude was the wide receiver or the quarterback 5 last year. Like we've talked about this in length. Lots of targets there, but JSN, like, he's only going to be on the field in 3 wide receiver sets. I think Lockett and DK are cemented in that wide receiver 1 and 2 role, at least for this year. So, how often does Seattle run 3 wide receiver sets? That's to be determined. I think they'll probably do it pretty often with JSN.
100%.
They'll probably try to get him on the field constantly. So
as much as possible.
yeah.
You'll think this is fucking hilarious. So last year in my work league, I had Russell. That was the one league that I actually got Russell Wilson. So I'm
Okay.
of course like trying to stream quarterbacks all year, and I end up with
Yeah.
Geno Smith on my team.
Oh my
And
God.
at some point, I just go like, I can't start Geno Smith. Like I just can't get myself to
Even
do
though
this.
he was killing it.
I traded him for like nothing. I was just like,
Jesus.
get him off my team. I am not having a successful fantasy football team with Geno Smith on it. I just won't do it.
Yeah. I mean,
But,
I can understand where you're coming from, but I just don't agree. So it is.
But so yeah, I have JSN at 35. I have Eli Moore at 36. Deontay Johnson, Zay Flowers, another guy we're super high on. Lockett and Sky Moore to top out the top 40. Sky Moore, and then I have Kadarius Toney at 41. Those are going to be two guys that are probably in different spots as the preseason comes along. I don't know what to think about Toney yet. I mean, he's supposed to be healthy for week 1. Something about him getting injured again is just makes me not feel good there.
I mean, understandably. I mean, the guy's had the longest injury list at such a young age from anybody. So, I mean, it's hard to believe that he's going to stay on the field this whole season. And Sky Moore, you know, if that happens, Sky Moore is going to get a ton of targets. So, I think that's why we both have him ranked ahead of him. But
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I don't. Do you feel comfortable with Sky Moore as your wide receiver 3? Because right now we have him ranked outside the top 36, and I think he's one that's ranked outside. Like he's a wide receiver 4 that I would be comfortable as a wide receiver 3.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I just it's hard for me to answer that question because I just know that he wouldn't be. I tend to hammer wide receivers. If we're in a 3 wide receiver league, I'm hammering wide receivers early. Just because I know that there's running backs that I like later, and I like to have a very deep wide receiver room.
Hypothetically speaking, if you were to go running back, quarterback, tight end, that type of start, where you didn't take wide receiver, like if the board just kind of felt to you that way.
You want me to tell you what my team would be? It would be
Please
Bijan,
go ahead, tell me.
It would be Bijan, Saquon, Josh Allen, and Mark Andrews.
Okay, so if you had Bijan, Saquon, Mark Andrews, and Josh Allen, would you feel comfortable having Sky Moore as your wide receiver 3?
In order for that to happen, I would have to be. I mean, where's Saquon getting drafted now? Is he a first rounder?
He's a late first, early second.
Yeah, so that's not even a real scenario. Because Bijan would then have to go late. I would have to be at like the 7 or 8 spot in a 10-man league. And then maybe it would happen.
Yeah, I could see that playing out depending on.
If I was at a 7 spot and people were just hammering wide receiver early, Bijan fell to me. So I go Bijan at the 7 spot. And then at the 13 or whatever that is, 13 or 14 going Saquon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe that could happen. But anyways, I would be comfortable with Sky Moore. If that was to happen, then I would be hammering like. Hopefully, I would be able to get Ayuk, Pickens, Christian Kirk, Dotson, Eli Moore, Zay Flowers, Sky Moore. You would see me drafting those guys. I would just rattle off like 4 or 5 straight wide receivers. And if any of those that I just named were available, they'd be on that list.
Yeah, I feel that. All right, well, I think that about does it for our top 36-ish wide receiver 1, 2s, and 3s, potential starters for your fantasy squads. Mike, did you want to add anything else before we hit the road?
The road show. We have 85 wide receivers ranked, so I feel pretty good about these rankings. I can probably go in and adjust them before we post when we get that deep. Like right off the top of my head, I see I have Justin Ross at 78 and Claypool at 79. I would definitely change that because I don't really think Justin Ross is going to make the team anymore after just seeing, Justin Houston. He's one of their they just have so many receivers there. Like
they can't.
If Justin Ross is not ready for the NFL right now, then he's not going to be there. But anyways, yeah. So we will definitely keep these posted and blast over every social media platform and make everyone know where these are going to live. Yeah, that's good. I'm good. Buckle up.
We're good to go. Good to go. All right, everybody, buckle up. Stay tuned. We got a lot of stuff coming. 2-a-days. Who's ready for mock drafts? Who's ready for best ball? Mock.
Yeah, I would say that I would say this wasn't our highest energy episode. We're getting late. Ryan has been on the road all day. I turned into a pumpkin pretty early, but we're hammering out these 2-a-days. I think we still got, had a good episode and got some good information out there. We'll try to bring the energy for everyone tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself. All right, everybody, buckle up.